What is going on, guys? My name is Noonan, and today I'm bringing another Super Senso guide video. Now, as of today, patch 1.3 just dropped for Super Senso, and with it came a lot of changes, mostly nerfs to a lot of cards. So, decks like the Sapper Warp combo, Ranger Warp combo, have been, I would say, significantly nerfed. It doesn't mean they're not viable anymore, but with this patch it really opened up a lot of opportunities for other builds and more cards and stuff like that. So, upon this patch dropping, a lot of people asked me on stream and just in the comments and stuff like that, they want to see another Phantasmo deck, because a lot of people are still rocking Phantasmo, they still like his passive, and by all means, I mean, Phantasmo is still a very, very strong Senso right now, and he's still extremely viable. So, let's go ahead and jump into a Phantasmo deck that I think would play pretty well with the new patch. Now, a few things have changed from my last build and some other decks and stuff like that. So, we'll kind of go into it, I'll explain it, and then I'll jump into a game and kind of show you how you should be playing the deck and kind of positioning and stuff like that for all the units. So, getting right into it, this is going to be a Phantasmo build. With this patch, AOE units got a lot more viable. So if you guys are rocking some heavy AOE in your deck with cards like Mortar, Sapper, and Meteor, it's going to play very, very well with people rushing in with smaller units and even heavier units. So tankier units came into a little bit more viable this patch as well. So you might be seeing a little bit more things like that. So getting into it, our deck, we're starting off with Phantasmo. You guys should know by now how Phantasmo passive work. He picks a unit, he pulls it in, you nuke it down. So we have the Sapper. Sapper did get nerfed a little bit. As you can see, the cost for the Sapper went up by 1 gel. So he's a little bit more expensive. You can't spam him as much, but that's no big deal. He still plays off very well, and he's very good for getting in AoE damage and finishing off units. Now we're rolling the Longbow. Now, I used to roll Ranger. Ranger did get a bit of a nerf this patch. Range went down a little bit, and so did the health. So the Ranger can now be one-shot by cards like the Jet, and anything with a little bit higher base damage, the Ranger can be one-shot. So, I mean, it's still a very viable card, but it's a little bit weaker now. So that's why I think the Longbow is going to come in and really shine much more than what the Ranger was last patch. Longbow has a little bit less damage, but it does have armor shred, and it has increased range, so it acts very similar to the Ranger, but I think it's going to be a little bit more viable this patch, and you'll see a lot more people rolling it in their decks just because it's a little bit better in terms of how the nerf went for the Ranger. Next, we're rocking the Mortar. Mortar hasn't been touched. Mortar's still a very great card. You sit in amongst the back lines, people come in with a bunch of units, small units, heavy units, whatever it is, you're going to get their health low, and you're going to hit them all really, really hard. We're rocking the Jet. Jet got a slight health buff. Other than that, Jet wasn't really touched too much. So the Jet's going to be really, really good for people who are still rocking the Ranger. Because like I said, it's still a very good card. You definitely want a sniper card in your deck, but the Jet can now one-shot it, which is pretty good. So you definitely want to be rocking a Jet or any kind of long-range unit that has a lot of map coverage. You could be rolling something like the Scout, but the Jet has flight, so we can go over certain areas in the map that the Scout can't, and you know, a little bit more damage, which is not too bad. And then the Meteor. Meteor is really, really good because, like I said, heavy AoE is become a lot more viable right now in this patch. It's going to play off very, very well. So Meteor doesn't have a place in every single turn that you do play, but it's going to be good for finishing off units that start retreating or coming in that are very, very low. So this is my current Phantasmo build. So we're going to go ahead and basically jump right into a match and kind of show you the work that this can do, the kind of placements you want to do with each of the units, and, you know, just an overall general gameplay of how this deck is going to work and play off each other. So with these patch notes, I'm pretty excited. A lot of things got nerfed. Like I said, there really wasn't much buffs to anything. It was basically kind of balancing out the very, very overpowered strats that the game had right now, which was causing a lot of problems for newer players. People rolling double Ranger, Ranger Warp, Sapper Warp. It was very, very tough combos to deal with, and I think it's going to open, with the recent patch, it's going to open a lot of possibilities for new deck builds and other stuff like that. So a lot more things are going to become more viable, other than everybody rocking Warp in either the Ranger or Sapper in the deck, depending on their star power and what they have unlocked. So, like I said, a lot more things become more viable, and it's pretty exciting this way. I like it. So, we're on this map. If you guys are not familiar with this map, it's one of the last maps that you do unlock, but generally, kind of the playstyle and the rule set for this deck is going to be similar regardless of any map that you play on. So, we're going to keep Phantasmo in the back lines. Phantasmo should always be in the back lines, pulling in units that he can, and we're going to call in a Mortar. Mortar, always going to stay close to your Senso gate, but not too far off. Usually a little bit ahead of your Senso or whatever you're rocking, so that way you can get some good damage off, like around here, or pretty much this whole area that they can't get you in damage for one turn, but they can get close and just enough to start, you know, nuking down the enemies. So let's see what the Guardian does. Guardian's going to start coming in. So now we can get some damage into the Guardian. We can actually pull him with Phantasmo, which is pretty good. So let's see. We got... Alright, so we got an Abductor. That's a very interesting card. But let's go ahead and let's see. Now we can throw a Sapper in the back lines. I really like having Sapper in the back lines here because you can start getting damage off on this tower. And it's very, very hard to approach the Sapper and kill it. So basically you're just getting free damage off, which is really, really nice. So having a Sapper on standby is always very good. Even in this patch, even though they're a little bit more expensive, they definitely work very well. So now we're going to go ahead and throw in a Longbow. If you have a Longbow or a Ranger, like I said, in the very far back lines is where you want to keep them. So let's see, we're going to go ahead and throw in our Mortar Strike here. We're not going to pull it in with Phantasmo because we don't want the Guardian to attack or do any damage just yet to our Phantasmo. Because if we did, basically, he'd be losing a lot of health very early. And we don't want to lose him too early because then your deck kind of starts to fall apart. So the key is for playing Phantasmo is to keep him alive and up as long as you possibly can. Because if you can, he basically does a ton of work. Okay. So, enemies coming in with 2 scouts. 2 scouts on the bottom here. We still have the Abductor. So, what we're going to go ahead and do, we're actually going to AoE these 3 units down. So, some pretty good damage amongst the 3 right there. And now we have our Longbow up. Longbow is going to be very, very good for shredding the final armor on the Guardian. Let's see. We have our Scout on standby. So, now Scout on standby can come in there, get the damage low. We can actually throw a Meteor right here if we want to get more AoE damage off. But I think we're going to do another Sapper on standby here. And we're still going to throw in a second Sapper along the top. So that won't be too bad. So what we're going to do is basically, let's go ahead and throw in. We're going to bring the Scout, because if the Scout left there, he would have got damage on the Senso Gate. And we kind of want to avoid double damage on both, I mean not the Senso Gate, the towers. We want to avoid the double damage on both towers. So that's pretty bad if it did. So he's coming in with the Guardian, that's fine. He kind of blocks off all paths, so he can't kill the tower this turn yet. Okay, so this Scout's backing out. We can kill him next turn, not sweating that too much. This Scout's moving on up. Okay, so not too bad, not too bad. He's coming in. It's kind of a spam deck with smaller units, a lot of weak cards, which is not bad. I'm really not going to sweat it too much. Because honestly, now we can get AoE damage here. We can actually come on in. Let's see. Let's use our Sapper that we had on standby to get these 2 Scouts low. And now we can kill... Let's think about it. Actually, this is where our Meteor is going to come into a really good play right now. Because now we can get some good damage on the Guardian. We can kill that Scout. This Scout can die. That Scout can die. And now we can get in some really good damage to the Guardian. Guardian's not going to die this turn. He's going to be very, very low. But it's going to allow us to get another strike next turn. So we might lose the tower. That's fine. That's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. But basically, we're getting down all the small units. Because if you don't focus the small units and you keep letting them stack up a ton of units, it's going to get very, very overwhelming. And it's going to be very, very hard to deal with. So we did leave some units up. The Guardian's still alive. We lost a tower, but it's fine. We're dealing with it kind of one at a time. So he's going to hit me for 226 damage. It's going to hurt a little bit, but it's not going to be too bad because we can still come back from this. So let's go ahead and we're still leading on those Mortar Strikes right here. So as you can see, this tower's getting very, very low, which is good. So let's go ahead and let's see. Let's use our Longbow to, let's see, we can kill it with that. But let's use the Longbow to kill the Guardian. We can pull in, actually, let's leave the Scout. Let's do, it's a pretty interesting situation we got here. Let's actually do a second Mortar lineup and then throw that Sapper on standby amongst the top. So Scout's going to come in. We might lose the Senso, but we can actually move the Senso to the back lines, and we'll let the Mortars take the damage. So, like I said, keeping that Phantasmo up for as long as we possibly can. Even if he's at a position that puts him at a disadvantage, we can still pull a good amount in. If the Mortars take a hit, that's fine. Not going to sweat it too much, because Mortars are a little bit tanky. They can take a few hits. They're not going to die too quickly. But now this kind of allows him an opportunity to push in all his units. So now you can see he has all these Scouts pushing in, and essentially, look at, now we got AoE damage right here. The second Mortar was actually not a bad idea at all, because we were able to get a lot of damage in on multiple units. So let's go ahead and actually, let's do a hit on the Scout down here, and then we can actually bring in a Meteor to strike that. and we can use our longbow to kill the scout over here, and let's just use the sapper to get more damage on the tower. So now both of these towers are pretty low, and we're getting close to basically, in a turn or two, we could probably take one, if not both of them, and that should give us maybe close to elite damage, if not a really, really good strike for one of our turns. So he has one scout left. He might take my longbow. Yeah, I suspect that he's going to take the longbow. That's fine. Abductor's coming, that's fine. If the Abductor comes closer, we can nuke it down with our mortars that we have set up. I'm not really sweating it too much. So now we have the Scout coming in. Scout can actually die. We're going to go ahead and just throw a Sapper at it. And now we can get it with our Phantasmo. We can now actually throw 2 of our mortar strikes over at the Abductor. And let's throw... We're going to throw a longbow right here, because now the longbow is going to shield the Abductor from getting in any direct Senso Gate damage. So longbow might take some damage, that's fine. Not going to sweat it too much. But it won't be enough to kill the longbow this turn. So we got another strike in. We're not doing too bad. We're kind of evening the playing field at this point. Abductors are probably going to move up to get some damage on my mortars. Okay, didn't have enough space. He's moving way out of the area, so he's retreating a little bit, which is not bad. We can actually still get some good damage off onto him, if not even kill him. So yeah, we can get a meteor strike right there. So now you can see this tower is very, very low. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this Abductor a little bit lower. We're going to come in with the longbow. And then, actually, let's just kill the Abductor. If the Abductor gets too close and stays up for too long, it could become a really big problem. So we don't want that to happen. If we can kind of move our... Let's move our Phantasmo just over here, so he's just out of the range of most units that will come in, but he'll just have this good lineup to start pulling in units as he needs them, and we can nuke him down with the 3 units we have here on standby. So as you can see, having the double mortar and the meteor in our deck, so it has very, very large amounts of AOE, and it's playing off very well. You're not going to win games instantly, but we're getting lots of units low, and we're picking them off one by one and just letting the strikes do the work for us. So let's see. We got... Actually, I believe we can, yeah, we can kill the tower now. So that was good that we got the tower low. We kept the pressure on, because now that's another strike for us. That plays into some really, really good advantage for us. Let's go ahead and pull this scout in. We can now kill it with our mortar, my bad, and we can get a longbow shot in on the Abductor. Let's go ahead and throw a Sapper here. Sapper still has 1 shield, so he plays good as kind of, a good wall amongst all our units, so he might go and get the aggro of the Sapper and try to kill it. Has 1 shield, it's going to be harder to kill than you think, and if we keep it up, we can get some good damage on this tower. And let's throw a second Sapper amongst the back lines. So yeah, Sapper is a little bit more expensive, you can't spam them as much, but when you do have the opportunity to bring them up, they're very, very devastating. They're still a very viable card. Alright, so Scout's coming in. Abductor's gonna try to come around for the Senso Gate, but the Abductor can die next turn, so I'm not gonna sweat it too much. We have a lot more Scouts coming in, but we're not gonna sweat it. We're doing just fine, actually, because now we have that Sapper on standby, and we can throw that Meteor for that really, really good damage, and then our Mortar for really good damage, and that Meteor to essentially finish him off. So look at that. Another 161 damage. We can kill the rest of the units and get some more damage off on this gate, but now we have enough damage to essentially take the victory, and that's pretty much game. We just won. So that's kind of how you want to play the new deck. Like I said, heavy AoE cards are going to be a lot more viable, and they're going to be really, really strong amongst this patch, because people might go with a little bit more spamming units. They might find some new ways to rush you in. If playing defensive is really going to, I think it's really going to shine in this patch, because like I said, if people start coming in, they start rushing in, they can't warp in as far with the warp card, they can't rush in with a ton of sappers because they're more expensive, so people are going to find other means and other cards to kind of, you know, rush into you. And if you play defensive, especially with a Phantasmo and double mortars, if not maybe like a longbow to replace that ranger, it's a very, very strong lineup, and it's going to be very hard to approach your Senso Gate and for people to rush you. If people start playing defensive as well, you have the longbow, you can start doing multiple longbow setups instead of the double mortar setup. It's very situational, but I mean, in general, that's kind of the deck that I'm rocking right now, and one that I would say is pretty viable. If not, you guys should see a good amount of success with it, because I've been playing around with it and testing it out for a little while now. I've been pretty much sitting here all morning playing with a few different cards, but that's pretty much it. If you guys have enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. But as always, guys, have fun while you're playing Super Senso.